I'm not sure what the weather's like in Washington, D.C. at the minute, but yesterday the Prime Minister, Theresa May, arrived in the United States. First stop was Philadelphia. Today she moves to D.C. where she'll be meeting President Trump, the first foreign leader to do so, which she has already suggested says a lot about the special relationship between Britain and the United States. This is what she said about that relationship yesterday in Philadelphia.
On the streets and in the halls of this great city of Philadelphia, that the Founding Fathers first set it down, that the textbook of freedom was written, and that this great nation that grew from sea to shining sea was born. Since that day, it has been America's destiny to bear the leadership of the free world and to carry that heavy responsibility on its shoulders. But my country, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, has been proud to share that burden and to walk alongside you at every stage.
Theresa May being applauded yesterday for her words, which came very close, didn't they, to an endorsement of the concept of manifest destiny in the United States. Just how special is that relationship between Britain and America? Some politicians, even this side of the Atlantic, think it sounds a little needy at times, a little psychologically needy, that Britain talks up the special relationship perhaps in a way that the United States didn't. And what about Barack Obama's 8-year term? He was very fond of the Germans, wasn't he? His very last communication as president with Angela Merkel, not with Theresa May. So how special is that relationship? And this is the question for you, if you're listening today. If you had an opportunity to speak to Donald Trump, as Theresa May will soon, perhaps in private in the Oval Office, what would you be saying to him today? 03030 80 55 55. Ben Lowry's in the studio with me, the newsletter's deputy editor, along with Phil Kelly, Labour NI's executive committee member. Welcome. Good afternoon. What would you be saying to Donald Trump today, Phil?
Is there a delay in the mic, William? I wouldn't have very much to say.
Are we going to need to beep you?
I think it's
bleep you?
It's quite apt that on Holocaust Memorial Day that our Prime Minister is over in Washington fawning round someone who is making noises which are deeply disturbing. People have talked about a postmodern 1930s, and I think we are at that dangerous epoch with what's happened. We've seen the collapse of the economic status quo throughout North America, throughout the Western capitalist world. Today, 81% of Americans are worse off than they were in 2004. There's real storm clouds on the horizon, and this, to talk up this special relationship, to throw our lot in with this rogue state that we're seeing develop in America, is deeply frightening.
What would you say to Donald Trump?
Well,
directly,
I would tell him that America is charting a very dangerous course, and increasingly it should be charting that course alone, and it wouldn't be doing so with the support or the endorsement of any people who regard themselves as members of the free world. So you'd essentially tell them to shove
the special relationship, would you?
Indeed, yeah. I'd like to build a wall around America at this stage. I'm so frightened by it. But the reality of this is it shows Britain's weakness. In a post-Brexit world, Britain is increasingly isolated, and it's now clambering around looking for friends in very strange places. Theresa May, as a feminist leader, has been to Saudi Arabia, and now she's at the court of Donald Trump. What does that tell you?
Ben Lowry, what would you say to Donald Trump today?
Well, if I was in her position, I wouldn't be saying very much, because I understand the meeting is 1 hour. And unfortunately, she is going to have to do basic stuff like flatter him and congratulate him on his election victory and not say very much. Say thank you for supporting us in Brexit. She, of course, didn't support Brexit, but she's implementing it.
She got wild applause when she mentioned Brexit.
This is really interesting.
I think the Americans think she's leading Brexit.
But this is so interesting that she got applause in that speech. I have a theory that some of the applause that she got was because the Republican establishment that she addressed doesn't particularly like Donald Trump. They have to deal with him, and they certainly are not going to repudiate him as president. And she would probably be more in thinking with them, although she'd be a liberal in American Republican terms, than Donald Trump would be, because he's neither left nor right, is my theory on him. He's ended up on the right. Claims to be on the right. He's all over the place in lots of different positions. Simple fact of the matter is, this man is the president of the United States. United States is still, by a distance, the most powerful country in the world. China's catching up in terms of overall GDP, but still quite a long way behind.
Biggest military in the world, of course.
Biggest
Important
military in the world, culturally the most influential country in the world. You can say what you like about the United States, but you go to every nation on earth and you find people who want to move there. You do not go to every nation on earth and find people who want to move to China, for example.
It's strange that Donald Trump has managed to persuade a lot of Americans that the American military has been harmed in terms of its size and its capacity under Barack Obama. America has the world's largest air force. The world's second largest air force is the American Navy. It's an extraordinary fact, isn't it? Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I think that and obviously he said a lot of things in the election that were frankly nonsense. But the American military is still incredibly powerful, and I think this is a really big trump card for Theresa May. The British military Britain has generally stood shoulder to shoulder with America.
I'm interested in the fact that neither of you has yet used the word torture. We talked a lot about torture yesterday. I'm sure Theresa May didn't want torture to be the conversation that the world was having about Donald Trump as she was going to meet him. Would you raise torture if you were Theresa May, if you were her?
I think Theresa May has said that prior to this meeting, that, you know, there could be an end to sharing of information and stuff. The reality is, behind the scenes, that tends to go on regardless of what politicians say publicly. We know about rendition that happened under Blair. It's a massive issue. I mean, you're talking about America now openly talking about breaches of human rights, and that's something that probably unites Theresa May and the Conservative government, is their disregard for human rights, for their cynical treatment of the migrant issue. So they're both fairly united on that. On regards to the American military, I think it's increasingly dangerous for Britain to be seen to support that role in the world. If you look at America's role predating Donald Trump, we've seen America cause instability across the globe through failed interventions. That's not something that Britain should be flag waving for.
It sounds like you don't like the fact that America is the world's remaining hyperpower. You don't like that fact. You don't like what America does with its military power and with its economic might. But that's the world we're in.
I don't, yeah.
If you're the British Prime Minister, you've got to deal with the world you're in, don't you?
I don't like when democracy is supposedly spread. They talked about the burden of democracy. More often than not, that's carried on the payloads of Reaper drones or B-52 bombers. That isn't how you become a champion of the free world. We need to look at what America's conduct has been and ask ourselves, has it progressed? Has it made the world a safer place? And the only answer on that is no, absolutely not.
We will have a chance to talk more about this after the 1 o'clock news. Let's take a call before then from Nigel. Hi, Nigel.
Hi, William. How are you?
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah. Just on the whole Trump and a UK trade deal, I have no doubt we will be at the front of the queue. I have no doubt of that. I have no doubt we'll be able to sign it very quickly, but it will be a deal based on the terms and conditions that America gives us, and that's fair enough. I mean, in fairness to Trump, I'm not a Trump fan, but he has been very loud, very clear for a long time, in predating his interest in politics, that deals are about him winning. Deals are about America first, and deals really, it's about America. I mean, it's not very complicated.
It's an interesting negotiating position, isn't it? We're going into a deal negotiation. I'm telling you in advance, this is going to benefit me rather than you.
Yes, no, the deal's very simple. Here's the terms and conditions. Please sign it. If you don't want it, that's fair enough. Then that's the end of the negotiation. Let's go somewhere else.
Thanks a lot, Nigel. Ben, it's important that we also mentioned that Donald Trump doesn't have a commerce secretary at the minute. This multi-billionaire he's trying to get in hasn't yet been confirmed, and he commented on that yesterday and said he'll have to lead those trade conversations with Theresa May himself alone. But I'm up to that.
I mean,
I'm up to that.
Very, very amusing. Can I just say, go back to the fact that this is this is a 1 hour meeting, and I actually don't think she should be raising torture. I don't think it's appropriate to go in and try to lecture. I happen to think Donald Trump's pretty reprehensible in many respects.
You want her to
she should not be not in a 1 hour meeting at first. He's not going to. She's got to build relations with him.
Congratulations, love your hair, all of that. Schmooze him.
Not quite that nice, but she's the junior partner.
With lots more to come on this with Ben Lowry and Phil Kelly. Want to ask him about the Labour Party too in a minute. 03030 80 55 55. Stay with us. Let's get the 1 o'clock news first. 5.5 minutes past 1. We're talking to Phil Kelly from the Northern Ireland Labour Party and Ben Lowry, the deputy editor of the newsletter. 03030 80 55 55. Special relationship between the United States and Great Britain, or the United Kingdom. Theresa May is there today meeting Donald Trump. Ben Lowry, there's also a key relationship between Britain and Ireland. Donald Trump is actually unusual in this respect. Every president since John F. Kennedy has claimed an Irish historic connection, with the exception of Gerald Ford, and now Donald Trump. Does that tell us he may be less interested in developing any kind of Irish relationship?
Well, it might do, and I don't think that he would be anti-Irish. I mean, can I just say about Theresa May, it was marvellous to hear her refer to, quite deliberately, in such an influential audience, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. She could have just said the United Kingdom, the UK. She could have said Britain. She pointedly said Northern Ireland. She is another friend of Northern Ireland in a succession of prime ministers from both parties who were friends of Northern Ireland.
Just by mentioning it.
Yes, she didn't have to spell it out like that. She spelled it out. That was a significant thing. But the influence of Trump and his links to Britain, of course we should play on that. He is Scots. He is Scottish. He's not Scots-Irish like so many of the presidents were. And let's be clear what Scots-Irish means. Scots-Irish means Northern Irish. Obviously it predates an entity such as Northern Ireland, but it really means the people who went to America, very influential, very early, talking about Philadelphia there, she was, who went to North America.
There are people
via
who call
the
themselves Northern Irish who don't have a Scots-Irish background, who are happy to use the term Northern Irish.
The simplest way to talk about this is it's a complex thing, and when you come from these islands, you have disproportionate influence in North America. And that's something we should all take advantage of, and that's something that the Republic of Ireland does take advantage of. But you mentioned there Ireland with regard to Britain, which gives me a chance to plug something that was in our paper that's doing very well on our website, people can read, which is a retired Irish ambassador saying that Ireland has to be realistic about the fact that Britain has left the European Union, and that Ireland maybe should leave the European. It should be open to. He's not advocating it should be open to. Why is he saying that? He's saying that because Ireland, the simple fact of the matter is, it's a small country compared to Britain, and Britain's very important to it. We are a small country compared to the United States. We, Britain, is what I mean. We're not geographically next door. We're not geographically next door.
We'll see where
you are geographically is not as important.
Diplomat saying it. We'll see where it goes.
Can I come back on a couple of points that Ben made there, the special relationship, and Trump's Scottish heritage? You may want to visit Scotland, where Trump built his ridiculous golf course and where he had people evicted and was aided by the SNP in that process of evicting people from their houses. He's not well thought of in Scotland because of his megalomania. Also, Theresa May to say or mention Northern Ireland, that's wonderful. Her economic policies being imposed by our executive are destroying manufacturing, and she's also silently allowed us to slip into a Brexit, which, from the Irish perspective, this is an all-island conversation now, because the Republic of Ireland is essentially shackled to a corpse in the sense of a British Brexit forced upon this region by a Tory government with no plan, who are now fumbling around looking for the latest misogynist with which they can sign trade deals. Somebody also mentioned earlier about signing
You'd never be a diplomat, would you?
No. Somebody mentioned, trade deals with Donald Trump. They may want to think about what Wilbur Ross said, so he's a senior advisor to Trump on trade deals. He advised a group of finance ministers in Cyprus that it was a God-given opportunity now to get in and steal British business because of the confusion around Brexit. There is two sides to this Trump administration: what he says to the fawning Miss May, and the reality of a hard-nosed businessman.
The question was what advice you would give Theresa May, essentially, in her conversation with Donald Trump. Ben, would you bring up the wall and his ambition to build a wall on the southern border between America and Mexico?
No, I wouldn't be bringing these things up in a one-hour meeting. That is an internal matter between America and Mexico. I don't think she should be getting into this kind of thing. It is a short meeting to build relations between the two individuals and between the two countries.
Congratulations, Mr. President. Please give us a good deal.
Essentially, yes.
I mean,
glorified over a period of an hour. You're going to be saying listen. This is that people talk about him openly as a narcissist.
Yeah, but the problem for that is that Theresa May, that might work well with Donald Trump. I'm sure he would love a bit of phoning.
Yes, of course.
But she has to come back, Phil, to the United Kingdom, where even within her own party there will be people who want to know: did you not only show that we have a special relationship, but that we can be equal partners in that relationship in terms of the moral commitments of government?
Well, the reality is they can't. And her conduct and how she's fawned around Trump proves it's from a position of weakness. You mentioned the wall there. Perhaps you could ask him, how do we build a wall between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, since she's forcing a hard Brexit upon us? So she might want some technical assistance on that, considering her real views in Northern Ireland is she doesn't care what happens here.
He says walls can work. Look at the wall in Jerusalem.
Yeah. Hasn't that worked well? And that's another issue where, when Trump made his ridiculous comments around Israel-Palestine, immediately the Tory government were backing that stance up. I don't think that's helpful to a region that really needs considered and grown up debate to solve very, very entrenched issues.
03030 80 55 55. Welcome, Mags.
Hello, how are you?
Welcome to the conversation.
Yes, it's very interesting. What I was going now, I am too young to remember the complete facts of what the Lend-Lease agreement contained. But I do know that when we went to pay back the Lend-Lease agreement to the Americans, it cost us an arm and a leg. It was completely loaded on their side. Now, any agreement that is made with the States will be loaded.
Does that just show that they're good negotiators?
Good negotiators, yes, definitely, to look after number one.
Well, isn't that what you want from your negotiation team?
We would need a good negotiation team to see, what Mr. Trump is a very clever, very dangerous man. I've said it before, and anything that he agrees to will be completely loaded for the United States, and we will come out probably broke again when we repay it if we make an agreement with him.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Stephen says, well done, Donald. Keep up the good work. There are a lot of people who do think Donald Trump is different, and in a very positive way. And yes, he's said some perhaps crazy things. Even he's taken some of them back during the campaign. But there's this phrase now that they use in journalism in the United States, that the liberals of American, elitist liberals of American public life tend to pay attention to Donald Trump in a specific way. They listen to him and they take him literally but not seriously. Whereas those who voted for him take him seriously but not literally. Are we paying too much attention to some of the things that come out of his mouth?
No, I don't think that we are, funnily enough. I suppose my politics would be more to the right than it is anywhere else. And I'm not one of the people who thinks that Donald Trump is a good thing. I don't, as I said earlier, consider him to be a politician of the left or right. And the caller there said that he's dangerous. I certainly would not have wanted to see him as president. He is president, however. I'm encouraged by the fact that some of the ridiculous things that he said, he retreats from. As I said, the Republican establishment clearly didn't like him, and a lot of them repudiated him and are now having to backtrack, which of course they're going to have to do when somebody from their party is in the White House. So the wonderful thing about the American system is in many ways it was designed with somebody like this in mind, who needed to be constrained, this system of checks and balances. In my lifetime, it's never really needed to be used. Well, obviously, Nixon was essentially removed from office, but it hasn't generally operated as obviously in the way that it should. Yeah. So this Republican-dominated Congress, people like John McCain, the war hero whom he mocked, are going to be very influential in constraining him.
You know about this doomsday clock business, don't you? That's a body of people, including a lot of Nobel Prize winners in physics and other specialisms, who look at the dangers and the threats of the world, and they tell us how close we are to midnight in terms of the apocalypse, the nuclear apocalypse. The closest we ever got, of course, was back during the days of Kennedy with the Cuban Missile disaster. They yesterday moved the seconds hand or the minutes hand in the doomsday clock, and they now say we're next closest to that because of the insecurities of the world we're in today. John, good afternoon. Welcome, sir.
Hello, William.
If you were Theresa May, what would you say to Donald Trump?
Yes, well, the way I look at it, I don't think Donald will be listening too much to her, because Donald Trump has promised so many American people so much that any charity will be totally directed towards the Americans. Theresa May has went there with a complete desperation written all over her face. One of the reasons here is during the Brexit arguments after the Brexit here, it's been the British government, they're trying to hold their hand. They don't want to show the Europeans too much in case they give them too much away on their deals. To me, just went there to America, and it's just sheer desperation for give us a trade deal. the trade deal will be 100% to suit America, not to suit anywhere near in this part of the world.
All right. John, thank you very much. He says it's desperation. The fact of the matter is, Phil, whether you like Theresa May or her politics, no British Prime Minister would turn down the opportunity to be the first foreign leader greeted in the White House by the new president. That says something politically, doesn't it?
Indeed, but it also shows the isolation of Trump in the sense that he's a pariah to many world leaders. We cannot shackle ourselves, as I said, to this monstrous regime which can only threaten more instability in the world. You mentioned there the doomsday clock. The world changed in 2008 when the neoliberal economic consensus collapsed around us. And what's that created has a deep uncertainty, deep insecurity among people. And what that provides is it's the death of the political centre, but now the fight is between a regressive right-wing authoritarian populism or progressives. And that means that people from all across the political spectrum must rally around that.
Phil Kelly, Ben Lowry, thank you both very much.